Hey guys, welcome back to another video on my channel. Before we get started, if you're new to this channel, please subscribe, like this video, put all your comments, suggestions, and questions in the section below, and check out all my other content once you're done watching this video. And we currently see in the national popular vote that it is officially a tie. And this is as of today, when we had two new polls, one CNN poll and one New York Times poll. Both of them are the final polls for each of those respective sites. And they both show a tie in the popular vote. And that has absolutely brought Harris down all the way to a tied race in the aggregate. The aggregate is now a tied race, and this is extremely big news because this has never happened before in the past 12 years, since 2004, that a Republican had a chance to win the popular vote. Back in 2020, Biden was supposed to win it by 8 at this time, and Clinton was supposed to win it by 5 at this time in history. We are only 9 days away from election day, and we have a tied popular vote. And already we have half of pollsters saying that this is going to be Trump's thing. Trump could win the popular vote. He's surging in the betting odds. And as we can see here, Kamala Harris has absolutely collapsed, going from around 2 points, leading 2 points in the aggregate in September. Now in mid to late October, it has become a tie. The popular vote is really up now for decision, because usually I had came into this when Kamala Harris came in, I had always thought that she is probably going to win the popular vote between 0 and 2%. But now I can confidently say that Donald Trump has a big chance of winning the popular vote, especially now with the polling it having at a tie. And maybe since it is already trending in his way, we're going to see more polls that come out that do show it as Trump's game. And if Trump wins the popular vote, he is most likely going to sweep every single swing state. And currently on these swing state polls, it currently shows him leading in every single swing state poll. And some of them are greater than other ones, like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan are less than a point. North Carolina is almost a point. And then we have Nevada, almost a point. Georgia and Arizona are pulling ahead of the other swing states, are voting more to the right. As I had covered in a previous video, they are states that Donald Trump looks more confident in, but he is up in every single swing state and up 1% in the aggregate. But this video is not just on polls. This video is all exactly what the title and the thumbnail shows us. It is about early voting. And we're going to get into some early voting numbers right now. Let's begin with the state of Pennsylvania. And there has been a lot of talk about the state of Pennsylvania and the early voting numbers. Let us go on votehub.com over here, and we can see the numbers live. This was updated, I believe, this morning at 8 a.m. And right now we can see that Democrats on the request are 56.5%. Republicans are 31.1%. And what's really going on here is Democrats have absolutely collapsed in their requests from the 2020 election. Let's go back in the 2020 election and observe how the request went. We see here in the request in the 2020 election, Democrats had 1.9 million, which is 63% of the overall requests. Republicans, 784,000, which is 25%. Let's fast forward now 4 years. Democrats went from 63% all the way down to 56%, and Republicans from 25% all the way up to 31%. They have 1.1 million votes, which is down from 1.9 million, and Republicans had 784,000, and now they're down to 616,000. So basically, Democrats are down around 8 to 900,000 requests, and Republicans are only down right now around 150,000, and they have continued to out-request them in the past week. Republicans are going to be closing the gap. They keep closing the gap, especially in the returns, where they are going to continue to close that gap. Democrats were above 60% last week. Now they have officially fallen under 60%. And this firewall that Democrats have created right now at around 500,000, maybe a little bit less, is most likely not going to be enough for that early in-person vote. For that on election day in-person vote, because there is no early in-person vote. For that election day person vote that is going to split heavily for Donald Trump. And that is a big warning sign for them that they are only turning out 1.1 million, but Republicans are turning out almost the same amount that they turned out in the last election. And going back on this map, that would argue to me to put the state in the tilt column for the former president. Going now to the state of Florida, we're going to observe that very interesting numbers we have in the state of Florida, where Republicans now lead by 10 points in the early voting. There have been 3.6 million early votes cast, 1.8 million by mail, and those are almost done, and 1.7 million by early in person, and those are still going on. Democrats lead in the mail-in votes by a small amount, and Republicans lead in the early in-person votes more than double, so a more than 2-to-1 margin. And this is an extremely significant map. If you go up and down, you're going to see a couple of Biden counties that have already flipped. Duval County has flipped. It is now a 3-point lead for Donald Trump. If we go down to Hillsborough County, it is a 2-point lead. This is a county that also Joe Biden won by around 8. We have Pinellas County, which is a 2-point lead. Joe Biden also won that county by around 1 to 2. We have Palm Beach County, which has gone below a 10-point margin. And the most shocking out of all of them, Miami-Dade County, which in the early voting, only the early voting, Donald Trump leads by 2 points. Republicans lead by 2 points right now. And they have been out voting Democrats in the early numbers by extreme amounts. But let's go to the 2020 election so I can show you and compare to you how it looked. So if we go to the mail-in ballots, requested, Democrats had led by 14 points. Mail-in ballots returned, Democrats had led by 14 points as well. In the in-person votes, Republicans had led by around 12 to 13 points. Right now, if you compare those numbers, the mail-in votes have shrunk from Democrats leading by 15 points to Democrats leading by around 6 to 7. And the in-person votes, this is only early, so this will continue to expand. But so far, the Republican lead in in-person votes has gone from around 13 points to around a 2-to-1 margin now. And it's crazy that they are outnumbering them more than 2-to-1 at this point, and it's continuing to get worse every single day because Republicans usually are the ones to vote more late. So because of all that data and polls also that show Trump winning the state by over 8 points, I am actually going to put Florida in the safe column on my map. Next, we have another important and crucial state, one state that Trump must defend. It would be the state of North Carolina. We do have some early voting out of North Carolina. Right now in the early votes, we have 2.3 million votes, and Republicans lead by 1 point. In the mail-in votes, Democrats lead by around 12,000, and in the in-person votes, right now Republicans lead by around 30,000. And this is extremely significant because in the 2020 election, all of the votes combined, this is not even early votes, this is all of the votes combined, including in-person votes, favor Democrats by 6 points in the 2020 election. Republicans have gained so far around 8 points from the 2020 election cycle, in which a lot of Democrats are now switched and voting Republican. A lot of these people, a lot of these Democrats are ancestral Democrats, and we do expect that because a lot of Democrats have been flipping Republican, that the Republican share will go up. Others, independents, will still break for Donald Trump. They did break for him in the 2020 election because he had to have made up a 6-point difference. So this huge third-party block definitely broke for Donald Trump. And this time, since Republicans are already leading by 1 point in the early voting, I do expect Donald Trump to expand on his win in this state. And right now, I am putting New North Carolina in that lean column for the former president, also supported by a lot of polls we have and data and metrics that point to Donald Trump not only doing great in the state, but gaining from his 2020 margin. Another state that is definitely worth mentioning in this video would be the state of Arizona. And Arizona has had a lot of early voting begin, and we can see that Arizona so far, this is created yesterday. I'll also show you some posts from today, but I wanted to show you guys and compare the early votes to previous elections. So right now in 2024, Republicans lead the early voting by 7 points. In 2020, Democrats led by 10. And in 2016, when Trump won the state by around 3 points, Republicans led by 3 points. So what we're seeing unfold right now is Donald Trump is performing twice as well as he performed in the 2016 election in the state of Arizona. And this is even taking out the idea of COVID out of the equation, not even including COVID, going back to an election cycle where there was no COVID. He is still doubling from his margin that he had in the 2016 election. And that is extremely significant because Arizona is a state that is extremely important in this election, 11 electoral votes. Right now, Donald Trump does lead by a significant amount, 1.5% in the polling. This is probably one of his strongest states. And if we check more data that has come out, some raw numbers for you guys, Republicans so far have 434,000 votes. Independents have 232,000. Democrats have 365,000. So Republicans have around a 70,000 vote lead in the early voting. And we're going to have to wait and see with the election day voting, since Republicans are turning out in such high numbers in this election cycle. And the state of Arizona, because of that, will be placed in the lean column as well on this map. Donald Trump only needs one more state to win the 2024 presidential election. And the next state we're going to go over is the state of Nevada. And in the state of Nevada, we have seen an extremely bad sign for Democrats because Republicans are actually leading in the early votes. Number one, let's go over the early in-person votes. Republicans right now are doubling Democrats. They lead them by 52,000 votes, which is a 2-to-1 margin. Going back to the 2020 election, we can see that Republicans did 16 points. They outnumbered them by 16 points, and now they're outnumbering them by an even larger margin. Expect this to continue to increase because these votes also include the election day votes. And next, going on to the total votes we see on Nevada, we have around 40% Republican, 35% Democrat, and 24% independent. Comparing that to the total voted in the 2020 election, Democrats led by 4 points on the final margin. And right now, Democrats are down. Republicans are actually up 5 points. So that is a 9-point swing towards Republicans in a state that both Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden won by only 2.4%. And because of all those metrics, the state of Nevada is now going to be placed in the tilt column for Republicans, a state that I originally had categorized as one of Harris's best states to hold. Now these early numbers are looking extremely bad. And also keep in mind that Donald Trump did recently flip the polls. He now leads by 0.7% on the average in RCP, and he's doing extremely well in the state of Nevada. Another update for Arizona, I forgot to mention, there was actually another update, another 200,000 votes. Republicans have actually expanded their lead to 85,000. They are now at over 500,000 votes. Scrolling up now, we're going to be going to the final state. Also, I covered this New York Times poll, but let's go to the final state now, which is the state of Georgia. Back in the 2022 midterms, also in the 2020 election, they're pretty similar because Democrats performed fairly well in both elections. But in 2022 midterms, when Democrats were able to hold the Senate by a narrow amount, they won the early voting by 12 points. Now in 2024, Republicans are leading by 4 points. They are almost at 50%. They have gone up from 39 all the way up to 49. This is a huge shift from 2022 and from 2020. We should expect Donald Trump to do really well in the state. And this also aligns with polling where he is up by 2.2%, and he has not been down in a single poll that is in the aggregate. And these are huge warning signs for Democrats. And because of all that, I am also placing the state of Georgia in the lean column for Donald Trump. The final two states of Michigan and Wisconsin do not have registers by party. Georgia also doesn't, and there isn't too much data on Wisconsin and Michigan. But going off of what I've heard, the state of Wisconsin, we have seen a lot of turnout among rural areas, the WOW counties, which is the really Republican and conservative suburbs of Milwaukee are turning out in heavy numbers. I will put the state of Wisconsin in the tilt column for Donald Trump. And in the state of Michigan, this is probably the state that is looking the best for the vice president. She is getting a lot of high turnout in the Detroit area. And right now, this state is a 50-50. And going to the polls, Donald Trump leads by 0.2%. So that'll put it over the top for me. And I am putting the state in the tilt column, especially now since the popular vote is tied. It's going to be hard to see Donald Trump not win all of these swing states that he is supposed to win, or at least win 6 of them, due to the fact that he might even win the popular vote. But that's going to be all for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe, like my content, put all your suggestions in the section below, and I'll check you guys out in the next one.